The blackness of space stretched endlessly around Earth, quiet and cold. Far above the planet, the warship Vanguard floated silently in low orbit. Its sleek hull shimmered under the weak light of the sun. It was Earth's most advanced ship, fast, smart, and deadly. At its helm stood Commander Ilara Voss, a woman who had seen too much war to ever welcome peace lightly. Inside the command deck, monitors glowed softly. Crew members moved with practiced calm. Ilara stood in the center, eyes on the wide observation glass that framed Earth like a painting. Her voice was steady. "Report," she said. "Orbit secure. No unidentified objects in the sector," replied Lieutenant Rios, her communications officer. Ilara nodded. It had been a long patrol shift, and everything seemed routine until it wasn't. Without warning, a sharp tone cut through the deck. "Unidentified signal entering Earth's outer orbit," said Rios. "Multiple contacts, fast, confirming now." "Visuals, on screen," Ilara ordered. In a moment the front screen flickered and displayed something no one expected. A fleet. Massive ships, dark and sharp like blades, moved through the stars with terrifying precision. They bore markings not of Earth, but of something alien. Cold, otherworldly symbols glowed along their hulls. There were at least a dozen warships, far beyond what any human nation could launch. Everyone on the bridge fell silent. Then the signal came. The screen switched to a figure, tall, armored and still. Its face was partly hidden behind a glowing mask. When it spoke, the voice echoed in deep, unnatural tones. "I am High Marshal Vec Tharun, of the Zevran Dominion," it said. "Earth's orbit is now under the protection of the Dominion. Your presence here violates interstellar law. You will withdraw or face destruction." The message ended. The screen returned to the view of the enemy fleet, now positioned directly above the Earth. Shock held the room still. Ilara narrowed her eyes. "Play it again," the message repeated. Cold, arrogant, final. This wasn't a negotiation. It was a claim of ownership, one that Earth had no chance to accept without becoming a vassal world. Rios looked at her. "Commander, what do we do?" Ilara turned from the screen, her face calm but firm. "Get me a secure line to the Global Council, now." Minutes later, she stood before the holographic forms of the Earth's leaders. Men and women from all regions, political, scientific and military, appeared in the circular projection chamber. "You've seen the signal," Ilara said. "We don't have time to argue. They're not here to talk." Counselor Saito, head of Earth Security, frowned. "We have no fleet. No standing force in space. Your ship is the only one with weapons." "Then we use it," Ilara said. "We're outnumbered, outgunned," another counselor added. "Perhaps we should respond diplomatically, request terms." Ilara stepped forward. Her voice didn't rise, but her words hit like a pulse of energy. "We just reclaimed peace on Earth, after a century of fighting. If we bow to these aliens now, we trade one ruler for another. We didn't rebuild to give it all away." Counselor Saito looked at her. "And you believe your ship alone can face an empire?" "I don't know if we'll win," she admitted. "But I know surrender means we've already lost." Silence filled the chamber. Then Saito nodded slowly. "You'll have command. Do what you must, Commander Voss. Earth is counting on you." The holograms faded. Back on the bridge, Ilara looked at her crew. "You heard them. It's just us." The ship's AI, a calm voice that echoed through the deck, added, "Tactical systems online. All weapons systems ready." She stared at the enemy ships in the distance. They didn't know Earth. They didn't know her. "Let's show them," she said quietly. "We're not giving up the sky." The stars outside flickered, and the Vanguard began to move. The Vanguard glided through the darkness like a shadow, silent, unseen. Its engines, cooled to low output, emitted no visible trail. Deep within the ship, Commander Ilara Voss studied every inch of space between her and the Zevran fleet. The enemy had not moved. They floated in perfect formation above Earth, like birds of prey circling a wounded animal. Their ships were larger than anything Earth had built. Sharp, geometric, alien. Each one likely carried hundreds of soldiers and weapons Earth had never encountered. But Ilara had one advantage: surprise. Inside the command deck, the lights were dim. Her crew worked quietly, focused and alert. On the central screen, data from stealth drones filled the display, layouts of enemy ship positions, movement patterns, and energy readings. Lieutenant Rios turned from her console. No changes in Zevran formation. Still holding. They think we've retreated. Ilara allowed herself a small, tight smile. Let them think that. Beside her, the ship's AI spoke through the speakers. Its voice was calm and clear. Male in tone, stealth integrity holding. Cloaking systems remain stable. No signs of detection. Good, Ilara said. It's time we hit back. The Vanguard was not built like older ships. It was Earth's first leap forward, designed for speed, agility, and intelligence. Its AI could manage combat maneuvers in microseconds. Its hull could bend radar, absorb heat, and mask its presence from most sensors. But still, it was just one ship, 1 against 12. Ilara leaned closer to the screen. One of the Zevran cruisers drifted slightly from the formation, a scout positioned near Earth's lunar orbit. That one, she said, pointing. It's out just far enough. Lieutenant Rios nodded. We can be on it in 20 minutes. Launch a shadow drone. I want visual confirmation of the cruiser's engine ports. No mistakes. Yes, Commander. The drone, a sleek black dart, launched from a hidden bay in the Vanguard. It slipped through the stars without light or sound. On screen, the Zevran scout grew larger. Soon they had a full image of its design. Twin propulsion cores in the rear, a sensor dome on top, weapons along the belly. It was vulnerable from below. Ilara studied it for a few seconds longer. Then she gave the order. Approach low. Cut power to main drive. When we reach 5 clicks, prep torpedoes for silent launch. The ship moved. Inside, the crew said nothing. Their hands moved quickly. Their faces calm. They trusted her. They trusted the ship. As the Vanguard reached its position, the scout ship loomed above like a metal whale. It drifted without concern, blind to the hunter beneath it. Firing solution ready, the AI announced. Ilara stood still, her heart beat steady. Fire. 2 torpedoes launched from the underbelly of the Vanguard. They moved fast and silent, invisible to the Zevran sensors. A second later they struck. The explosion was sharp and bright. Fire ripped through the enemy cruiser's lower decks. It began to break apart, its engines dying as it fell into Earth's gravity well. Alarms must have sounded aboard the other Zevran ships, because their formation broke. Ships turned. Sensors scanned, but they were too late. Ilara spoke firmly. Full burn, evasive pattern Delta 7. Get us out. The Vanguard shot away from the scene, twisting between asteroid clusters and old satellite debris fields. Enemy sensors chased them, but could not hold lock. On the bridge, the tension dropped as the stars cleared once more. Direct hit, Rios confirmed. The scouts gone. And the others? They're alert, scanning but no lock. They still don't know where we are. Ilara nodded. Let's keep it that way. The AI added. Enemy fleet is now repositioning. Defensive posture. They've taken the bait. Ilara turned to face her crew. We just showed them Earth won't roll over. We hit first. That changes everything. But even as she spoke, she knew this was just the beginning. One ship down was a message. But now the Zevrans would be hunting. Harder. Smarter. She would have to stay one step ahead. In the quiet of her private quarters, hours later, she sat alone. Her eyes scanned a digital photograph, a small faded image of a family smiling on a sunlit field. Her parents, her sister, all lost in Earth's last war. She had sworn that Earth would never kneel again, and she would keep that promise, even if she had to stand alone in the void. The Vanguard drifted again into the shadows, preparing its next move. The silence in space was deceiving. Beyond Earth's orbit, the Zevran Dominion was no longer calm. The destruction of their scout ship had changed everything. What was once a slow looming threat was now a hive of movement. Zevran ships adjusted their formation. Sensors pulsed across space, sweeping for the unseen enemy that had struck from the shadows. But Commander Alara Voss and the Vanguard were already gone, hidden behind the curve of Earth's moon, floating silently in its shadow. Inside the command deck, red light bathed the room. It was the ship's alert mode, signaling high-risk maneuvers in progress. Severa stood at the center of the deck, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the star map. "Report," she said quietly. "Enemy ships adjusting," Lieutenant Rios replied. "Two cruisers have taken orbit near the planet's equator. A destroyer is sweeping the lunar side. They're casting a wide net." "They still don't know it was us," Alara muttered. "But they're guessing." The ship's AI added, "Detection risk increasing. We must relocate within 12 minutes or risk exposure." Alara took a breath. She couldn't run forever. They needed another strike, but the Vanguard had taken damage from its last escape. One of the rear thrusters had overheated, and minor power loss flickered through the ship's lower decks. The engineering team was working hard, but they needed time. Time the Zevrans weren't going to give. "Any sign of support from Earth?" she asked. Rios shook her head. "The Global Council hasn't responded since our last encrypted transmission. We're still alone out here." Alara didn't show disappointment, but she felt it. Deep down, she knew the Council was divided. Some wanted to fight. Others wanted to surrender before the situation got worse. She didn't have time to wait for them to decide. "All right," she said. "We strike again, this time harder. If we hit fast and vanish again, we buy time for Earth to wake up." The crew turned to her. They didn't question her orders, they trusted her instincts. Even now, facing an empire, Alara's voice was their anchor. "Set course for the Zevran destroyer sweeping the far side. They'll be focused on scanning, not defending." The Vanguard moved again, slowly at first, then faster, slipping between fields of abandoned satellites, broken hulls from Earth's old wars, and forgotten space debris. It was dangerous to navigate, but it also provided perfect cover. As they neared the enemy vessel, the ship's AI spoke. "Target within range. Recommend high-speed strafing run." Forward railguns charged. "Engage on my mark," Alara said. The destroyer was massive, twice the size of the Vanguard. It moved slowly, its scanners sweeping in long arcs. Its armor was thick, but Alara knew its weak points: the sensor array along the top spine, and the venting ports near the center hull. The Vanguard shot forward. "Firing," shouted Rios. Two railgun blasts tore across space, hitting the destroyer's upper spine. Explosions followed, sparks dancing in the void. The destroyer shuddered, turning clumsily to respond. Its weapons lit up. "Brace," Alara shouted. Lasers streaked past the Vanguard as it dove and rolled. One blast clipped the wing, throwing sparks across the engineering deck. "Direct hit to port stabilizer," the AI reported. "Divert power to secondary thrusters." "Brake pattern," Alara ordered. The Vanguard twisted hard, spinning behind a field of debris. The destroyer chased, but slower, less agile. "We're taking fire," Rios warned. "Hull integrity, at 82%. Alara stared at the screen. The destroyer's venting ports came into view again. Just for a second. "That's it," she said. "One more pass." The Vanguard looped around, fast and low. A second volley hit the venting ports dead on. The explosion that followed was massive. Fire, gas, and fragments burst into open space. The Zevran destroyer was crippled, drifting without control. But celebration came too early. A warning blared. "Missile lock," shouted Rios. Another Zevran ship had arrived. A frigate, flanking from below. Missiles launched. Fast, deadly. "Evasive pattern now," Alara shouted. The Vanguard spun hard. The first missile flew past, narrowly missing the tail. The second hit near the rear deck. A shock wave threw the ship off balance. Sparks flew from the ceiling. A loud alarm rang across the decks. Damage to engine bay, the AI reported. Stabilizers offline. Crew member injured. Engineering. Alara's heart jumped. Who? Chief Engineer Callan. Shrapnel wound. Internal bleeding. Med bay responding. Alara clenched her fists. Callan had served with her for 7 years. He was one of the best. We need cover, she said. Get us behind the asteroid cluster. Full stealth mode. The ship limped away, engines burning low. Behind them the enemy regrouped, but did not chase. Inside the med bay, Callan was stabilized, but unconscious. Alara stood over his bed. His face was pale, blood still on his uniform. We're going to make it through, she said quietly. I won't let it end here. Back on the command deck, she took her place again. They had struck hard, 2 enemy ships down. But the cost was rising. They were wounded, alone, and Earth still remained silent. Alara looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Zevrans were planning their next move. So was she. The Vanguard floated like a wounded bird in the dark, hidden behind a dense cluster of asteroid fragments and space debris. Its hull was scorched. One of the rear engines pulsed unevenly, flickering like a dying star. Inside, the lights were dimmed to reduce energy output. Silence had returned, but it was not the peaceful kind. It was the silence that came before a decision. Commander Alara Vost stood in the war room with her senior officers. The screen before them showed a digital map of the battlefield. The Zevran fleet had shifted into a tighter formation, slowly advancing toward Earth. Their destroyer was gone. Their scout, destroyed. But they had adapted. Now they moved with caution and purpose. No more gaps. No more easy targets. Alara's hand hovered above the display. Her jaw was set. Her eyes, tired but sharp. They're closing in, she said. At this pace, they'll reach Earth's lower orbit in 3 hours. We can't wait for the Council anymore. Lieutenant Rios nodded. Council transmissions still silent. We're still alone out here. Alara tapped a blinking section on the map, a stretch of ancient satellite wreckage known as the Graveyard Belt. It wrapped around Earth like a rusted crown, filled with old tech from the 21st and 22nd centuries. Long-abandoned weapons, communication towers, broken space stations. This is our chance, she said. They're avoiding it. Their scanners don't trust the interference. Rios leaned in. You want to lead them through it? No, I want to pull them through it. And then shut the door behind them. The crew looked uncertain. The ship's AI spoke, calm as ever. Analysis suggests a 62% probability of success. Risk to ship remains high. However, potential impact to enemy fleet is significant. Alara nodded. We'll make it work. We have to. She turned to the engineering officer, a young woman named Tessa Vale, who had stepped up since Callan's injury. Can we power a full EMP blast from the forward reactor core? Tessa hesitated. Only once. It will drain power from everything else. Navigation, shields, weapons, everything will go dark. That's fine, Alara said. We only need one shot. The plan was set. Hours later, the trap began. The Vanguard emerged from the asteroid field and fired a single volley at a nearby Zevran frigate. It wasn't enough to destroy, but just enough to sting. Then it fled. The Zevrans took the bait. 3 ships gave chase, following the Vanguard as it weaved through the Graveyard Belt. Wreckage drifted all around. Twisted metal, broken satellites, rusted drones. Alara's hands gripped the console as the ship dodged debris and ancient wrecks. Every movement had to be perfect. Keep distance tight, she ordered. We need them close. Behind them the enemy ships followed, slower and larger, but relentless. Finally, Alara reached the drop point, a cluster of derelict ships that formed a natural choke. She brought the Vanguard to a full stop. Prep the EMP, she said. Tessa's voice came over the comms. Ready. On your signal. The enemy ships closed in. Alara waited. Closer, closer. Now, a deep hum filled the ship. Lights flickered. Systems blinked out. Then release. A surge of blue energy exploded outward in a wide sphere, rippling through the graveyard belt. The debris amplified the effect, bouncing the wave between metal husks and shattered stations. The enemy ships shuddered. Lights across their hulls died. Engines went dark. Weapons systems froze. 3 Zevran ships, paralyzed in space. Cheers erupted on the bridge. But Alara didn't smile. "Restart emergency systems," she said quickly. "We won't get another chance like that." It took 5 long minutes to bring the Vanguard back to life. The ship groaned as power returned. Sparks flickered in some corners, but the core systems held. "Status?" she asked. "All 3 enemy vessels disabled," Rios said. "We did it." Alara turned her eyes to the earth below. Still untouched. Still silent. She opened a comm line to the Council again using the secure channel. "This is Commander Alara Voss of the Vanguard. We've struck the Dominion 3 times. The fleet is damaged, but they're not finished. If Earth wants to stay free, you must act now. Launch reinforcements. Power the orbital defense grid. Declare unity, or we lose everything." She ended the message. Whether they listened or not, her path was clear. Back in the medbay, she visited Callan. He remained unconscious, but stable. Machines beeped softly beside him. She pulled a chair close and sat beside him in silence. For a moment, "I bought us time," she whispered. "I just hope it's enough." Outside the window, the stars moved slowly. Somewhere beyond them, Vec Tharon still commanded the rest of the Zevran fleet, and he would not let this stand. The next move would be his. The stars above Earth had never looked so sharp, so close. The damage from the EMP blast still lingered in the Vanguard systems, minor flickers in the lights, hums in the walls. But the ship was alive. It had survived again. 3 Zevran ships were frozen in the graveyard belt, drifting like dead giants. But it wasn't over, not even close. Commander Alara Voss stood at the forward viewport, eyes fixed on the largest Zevran ship still in orbit, the flagship, unmistakable in its size and design. Its hull gleamed with black alloy, trimmed in deep violet, marked with glowing symbols that pulsed like a heartbeat. It was watching, waiting. And on that ship was High Marshal Vec Tharon. He had not spoken since the first broadcast, but Alara knew he was calculating, watching her tactics, learning. Now he was ready to answer. "Commander," said Lieutenant Rios, stepping onto the bridge, "we've intercepted a direct signal from the Zevran flagship. It's for you, personally." Alara turned, put it through. The screen blinked to life. Vec Tharon appeared, tall, armored, motionless. His voice was deep, calm, and sharp as a blade. "Commander Voss, your ship has proven more capable than we expected. You've delayed the inevitable, but Earth will still fall." Alara stared at him. "Not today. You've caused damage. That earns you a warrior's choice," Vec said. "Surrender your vessel. Come aboard. Face me directly, one-on-one. If you win, I will withdraw. If you lose, Earth submits." Gasps echoed around the bridge. Rios stepped forward. "Commander, this is a trap." Alara's jaw tightened. She knew it was. But she also knew what Vec wanted. Not just conquest, a display. A show of power. A final symbolic blow. "I accept," she said. The bridge fell silent. "No," Rios said sharply. "Alara, we can find another way." "There isn't one," she interrupted. "We don't have a second EMP. We don't have backup from Earth. If we engage his fleet again, we won't survive. But if I take this chance, I might end it all." She paused. "Prep a boarding shuttle. Alone." Minutes later, Alara stepped into a sleek black pod, armed only with a sidearm and a blade. She wore light combat armor, reinforced but mobile. Her helmet stayed clipped to her belt. She wanted to look him in the eye. The pod detached from the Vanguard and streaked through the void toward the enemy flagship. As she approached, The Zevran ship opened its hangar. No resistance. No guards. Inside, the metal floor was polished and silent. Zevran soldiers stood along the walls, heads bowed slightly, not in respect, but in recognition of ritual. Alara walked forward. Steady. A door slid open. The chamber beyond was wide, circular and empty, except for one figure at its center. Vec Tharoon stood with his back to her. His armor glinted under the cold light. In his hands, a long curved blade made of dark crystal. "So," he said without turning, "you came." Alara stopped a few paces behind. "Let's finish this." Vec turned. No guards. No tricks. Just combat. Honor and blood. She drew her blade. They circled each other in silence. Then Vec struck first, fast and strong. Their blades met with a harsh ring. Sparks flew. He was powerful, his reach long, his strikes heavy. But Alara was faster. She ducked, spun and sliced low. Vec grunted, staggered, then surged forward with renewed fury. The fight raged across the chamber. Every step echoed. Every clash lit the walls with light. A sudden blow knocked Alara's blade from her hand. It skidded across the floor. She fell hard, her ribs aching. Vec stood over her, weapon raised. "It ends here," he said. Alara looked up at him, breathing hard. "You don't understand. We don't fight to conquer. We fight because we've lost everything before, and we won't lose it again." She grabbed her sidearm from her belt. One shot. Vec Tharoon fell to his knees. His weapon slipped from his hand. He looked at her, stunned. "You broke the rule." "I never agreed to your rules," she said. "You offered me a duel. I came to end a war." Vec collapsed, unmoving. Alara stood over him, breath steadying. The chamber was silent. Then a chime echoed through the hall. The Zevran soldiers on the upper level received an incoming message. One by one they began to step back. A voice came over the ship's speakers. A translator activated. "High Marshal is dead. Fleet command broken. All units disengage." The Zevran fleet, leaderless, began to shift formation. Slowly, one by one the ships turned away from Earth. No words, no threats, just retreat. Alara returned to her pod. As the hangar door closed behind her, she looked back once. The war was over. The Vanguard floated quietly above Earth, its hull scorched and scarred but still standing. Below, the planet spun in calm blue and green, untouched by the war that had nearly reached its skies. The Zevran fleet, once looming like a storm, had vanished into the stars, silent, defeated. Inside the command deck, a hush had fallen over the crew, not from fear, but from disbelief. They had won. Commander Alara Voss stepped through the bridge doors, her armor still marked from the fight aboard the Zevran flagship, a thin cut traced along her left temple. But she didn't notice it. Her mind was still in the duel chamber, still hearing the last words of High Marshal Vec Tharoon, the echo of his final breath. As she reached the command chair, her crew stood, one by one, no words, just the quiet respect of those who had walked to the edge of defeat and returned stronger. Lieutenant Rios approached, holding a tablet. "The council finally responded," she said. "They received your last transmission. They're stunned. The full retreat was confirmed by observatories worldwide. People are gathering in the streets, celebrating." Alara nodded once. "They should." Rios hesitated. "They're asking for a statement from you." Alara looked out the viewport. Earth glowed beneath them, peaceful for now. Her voice was quiet but sure. "Open the channel." Rios tapped the controls. A soft tone signaled the broadcast. "This is Commander Alara Voss of the warship Vanguard. The Zevran Dominion has withdrawn. Earth is no longer under threat. We stood alone, but we stood strong. This wasn't just a victory of weapons. It was a stand for our future." She paused, steadying her breath. "We showed the galaxy that we are not broken. We do not kneel. Earth will not be ruled by fear again. She ended the message. Cheers erupted across Earth. In cities, towns, spaceports, and orbiting research stations, people embraced, cried, and sang. For the first time in generations, there was a sense of unity, a shared pride that reached beyond borders. Later that week, the Vanguard docked at Earth's primary orbital station. Repairs began immediately, though many of the scorched marks were left untouched on purpose. Badges of honor, living scars of survival. The Global Council met Alara in person for the first time. There were medals, applause, words of thanks. But Alara kept her speech short. "I didn't do this alone," she said. "My crew fought beside me. And we did it not for power, but for peace." 2 months later, Kalen walked again, slowly, carefully, but with strength in his step. Alara met him in the engine bay, where new teams were studying the remains of the Zevran tech left behind. "Thought you'd be grounded by now," Kalen joked. "I'm thinking about it," she said, with a smile. "But the ship keeps calling me back." The Vanguard had been renamed Vanguard 1, the first of what would become Earth's new defense fleet. A signal, both to friends and enemies, that Earth now had a voice in the stars. In her quarters, Alara looked at the same photo she'd carried since the beginning. Her family, her past. She set it down gently. Then she opened a new image on her datapad. The crew of the Vanguard, smiling in front of the command deck. She whispered, more to herself than anyone else, "We didn't just protect the sky. We claimed it." She turned off the lights. Outside her window, stars burned quietly. Peace had returned. But this time, Earth was ready for whatever came next.